Welcome to the show, everybody. Michael with Coronavirus Diaries, and today I'm fortunate enough again to speak with Kasper, an artist out of Melbourne, Australia. Kasper, how you doing, bro?
Good man, good man. Cold, but it's good here. Yeah, it's not too
Yeah,
bad.
sounds like you guys are getting ready to go into winter right now, and you got some rain out there today.
Yeah, it's like a classic Melbourne day. Everyone that comes and travels here, they're always surprised on how this weather just fluctuates so much. It could be like today it's 10 degrees, pouring down rain and just like miserable outside. And then tomorrow it can be like, a nice sunny day, or it even turns into a sunny day sometimes in like, I don't know, wait 2 hours or something. It seems like a complete different temperature. It's weird.
It's funny that you say that because that is literally exactly what you can expect out of Minnesota weather as well.
Oh,
As
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
like a couple days ago, it was down in like 45 degrees Fahrenheit, which Celsius. Yeah, I don't we just did the math on that. What we were trying to figure out your
Yeah.
temperature, but it fluctuates like 30 to 40 degrees here. It's kind of like it's not a big deal.
Yeah,
But
man. Are
yeah, so
you picking up that rain in the background?
yeah, I can hear it a little bit. You got a
Oh yeah.
metal roof?
Yeah, I guess you're getting the real like Melbourne treatment for this podcast. Yeah.
Sure. So you've been busy, man. You the last time we talked, you had a contract consulting gig, or like a contract for doing an electric box for painting that. How'd that go?
Yeah, man, that was an awesome project. It was out in a place called Melton, so it's like about 40 minutes out of Melbourne CBD. And it was an interesting project because of the way that it was approached. To start off with, we linked up with one of the sort of young ambassadors in the community of Melbourne, in community of Melton. So the person that I connected with, so this is a big project. There was about like 4 artists and 4 different power boxes. But the person I connected with was their story was all about like identity, gender, LGBT, and positivity, and along those lines. So my piece sort of referenced that, and yeah, I was pretty happy. In the end of it, I tried to incorporate like a level balance of more of a feminine side and more of a male side, and then also like combinations of just visuals that represent each within the other. Like with the guy, he's got like a big beard, so it's reasonably masculine, but then he's got like a nose piercing and the beard's all like pink and blue. It's like pretty, like it has feminine and
Sure,
masculine traits. And
sure.
then the same thing on the other side with the female portrait, and then like a rainbow connecting them.
You know what
So
I can do is I'll get some images and I'll actually just overlay them on this video so that your listener can actually get a peek at what it was.
yeah, man. It was a fun project. The local community and stuff loved it. I had heaps of people approach in, like even had a lady come out from her place and was like, "Do you want some coffee and lunch?" And like was always offering me
Nice,
stuff. I'm like,
nice.
no, no, I'm good, I'm good. Yeah.
So would it be considered a collaboration then? Did you actually work with a specific person to kind of come up with the idea and the design, or how did that work out?
Yeah, so we linked up with our like partners for the project, and it was just the one day. So we sat down for like 45 minutes, had pizza, and just like shoot the breeze for a little bit. So it was super informal, and while they're chatting to you, you just sort of just think of ideas. I was just flowing things back and forth with them, and yeah, that's how we came up with the project. So from there, it was all just sort of each artist's own interpretation of their story.
Oh, so really organic.
Yeah, super organic. It's the whole concept and stuff was pretty open, which was awesome. It had to go through like a board of people to confirm it and stuff, just to make sure everything's all sweet. Because it's a reasonable investment for like the town. Their power
Sure.
boxes that they get an anti graffiti coating around them.
I was just going to
So
ask about that.
yeah, so even if they get bombed, they're going to get washed off. So they're going to be there for a long time. So I guess the community wants them to be nice.
Outstanding, man. Have you had other projects like that you've done for the city or the community?
In Melbourne, I haven't really linked up too much with the city. I have another project coming up where I'm painting this big sculpture looking blob character. It's like has 4 legs and it's like really circular. It's going to be this, it's really hard to explain, but it's
In
going to be
your
this
style? Is it in your style?
yeah, so me painting over the sculpture and turning it into like, I sort of took a lot of inspiration from Where the Wild Things Are. That,
Sure.
yeah, like
The beast.
those, yeah, the friendly characters and stuff. Because the project revolved around the Royal Children's Hospital here. It's like a celebration of 150 years of them being open.
Wow.
So I think there's about 100 sculptures, and they're going into like a big art trail, so people can walk along and look at
Yeah.
them. And I guess what I saw most important was like connecting just with the kids. So because that's what it's all about, you know. So my one is very like I could see a kid jumping on top of it and like having a ball, even though they're not going to be allowed to. But but at least
How,
they'll be able to look at it. It's not like some conceptual this and that and the thought. It's literally just it's being turned into this character, colorful and fun. Yeah.
very cool. How'd you find out about that or get involved with that project?
I just saw the application online and just like applied straight up. So similar process with the power box. Saw it, applied, and was lucky enough to sort of grab it in the end.
And now you're going to have a first aid kit and eye drops to take over to that project.
Yeah, I know. Oh man,
How'd that work
yeah.
out? Did you show up? Were there any road bumps or hiccups along the way with the electric box that you just did because of the kind of the parameters that were in place in order to do it?
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Like the first day I linked up with like the main lady facilitating it, and we went over like the run sheet and stuff. And I guess there were complications within that just for like social distancing, to like have a look at the piece of paper that I needed to read and sign before I started. Like, you know, I can't, like, I'm sort of trying to see the paper and she's like handing it out. But
Yeah.
once I started painting, it was all sweet. I had like amazing, interactions and everything, but there was one that was like really bad, to be honest, that shined out. You get this all the time when you're painting public projects, and quite often the reasoning for it is just ridiculous, and that's what the reasoning for this was. Man, so I was first day in, I'm painting, kids are coming up, there's 2 boys behind me riding their bikes, like showing off, trying to make me look at them the whole time and
Do
loving
wheelies?
yeah, you know,
Yeah.
just circling me and like, yo, watch me do this, watch you do that. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to paint, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm a few hours in, and then I get a call from the main lady who's facilitating it, and they're like, have you had anyone come up and hassle you, or is everything all good? And I'm like, yeah, like it's been fun, it's been great. And they're like, oh, we've had a complaint that's been called in to the council here. And they've actually gone to the extent of going online and applying for like a formal complaint, which means that the council they actually have to treat it like they have to look into everything, you know. It's
Sure.
not just oh, we'll ignore them because they're being silly on the phone or something. If it's formal, no matter what it is, you have to address it. So I didn't know why the complaint was happening. I thought maybe someone didn't like the artwork or something. I don't know.
Sure.
But I got a call. The lady came in the next day I was painting. It took 2 days to finish it. So the day it was finished, she approached. I was like, so what happened with the complaint? And she was like, oh, the guy that lives over the road just here, they said that the power box doesn't complement the front of their house, and they want it to be painted back to like the previous color, which was cream and mold and dirt and crap.
They wanted a moldy, dirty box.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
you know, you just, no matter what you do, no matter how like out of the 20 people that were super stoked and like just
yeah.
throwing out like the classic Aussie remarks, like, oh yeah, looks good, mate. Yeah. Oh, you know, just super
Sure.
like, yeah, super Aussie and loving and stuff. And then, you know, someone has too much time on their hands, is sitting at home, and they're like, oh, let's play with this kid making artwork, you know?
Yeah, right. The one that's
Yeah.
making art. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting enough. But so obviously it's still up though, right?
Yeah. No, I just had to send in like an email to the city council, just saying all of my interactions and everything that I had with the community, because I guess on file they had one person complaining and nobody else's voice is being heard, you know? So
Sure.
I sent an email in and said, you know, these kids were having fun. This mum came out. She was awesome. They were taking photos, blah, blah, blah. And I think the 20 good cases probably outranks that one person having a bad day.
Yeah, I can imagine. You know what they say is you try to please everyone, you're going to please nobody. So
Yeah,
just
man. That's
stay
it.
on point, keep doing what you're doing. But
Hmm.
well, that's cool to hear. And then you got this other project with the walking trail coming up. What else do you got going on here in the
Uh,
Keys?
a lot of commissions. I've been really lucky, actually. Yeah, like I've just been, heaps of people have been wanting to buy skateboards. So
Because
I've
they're
been,
badass.
yeah, yeah, they're fun to paint, man. But yeah, no, it's been really good. I got a skateboard I just finished, so I have someone picking that up from here in like 2 hours, and then I
Nice.
got
You got it there?
yeah, yeah, I'll show you. It might, you might know what it is. I have no idea because they wanted something in it. So this piece was more of a commercial type of piece.
Okay.
Um, it's one of those ones where like, you know, COVID's happening. I can't teach workshops. I can't do street art tours. So sometimes you got to take a job that's like
Sure.
reasonably, like there's a logo in it. You'll probably know what it is because I don't watch it at all, but give me a second.
Oh, this is going to be cool. Yeah, for the viewers and listeners while he's doing this.
Do you know that
Oh,
team?
yeah. Yeah, that's wild. So I actually don't follow a whole lot of sports. But yeah,
That's,
it's the Ravens, right?
yes. So it's a similar concept, all carved out and everything. But this is the Baltimore Ravens or something.
Yeah.
Baltimore,
Yep.
yeah. So it was for a kid.
Shipping
Based.
stateside.
What's that?
Is it shipping stateside?
No, it's in Australia. Some
Okay.
kid really likes NFL from here.
Right
Is that
on.
what? That's what it is, right? NFL.
Yeah, yeah, National Football League. I
Man.
know I'm bad, man. I don't really follow football, baseball, those kind of sports, but recognize the logo for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So it was for a kid. There was a kid that saw my artwork, like a mural in Hosier Lane, which is like the local, really famous street art laneway in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Sort of, it's a world-renowned sort of space. And one of the kids there saw my artwork, and they were getting a skateboard shipped in of like a Baltimore Ravens thing, but apparently it didn't come through, and that was like a scam.
Oh,
So
bummer.
yeah, but they were like, this is probably, they said it's a really great thing that they got scammed because they then saw my skateboard and was like, oh, so now they're getting a skateboard and a surfboard and they're loading up on a lot of work. So
Very
sounds
cool.
good. Sounds good to me.
You're gonna do a surfboard.
Yeah. Yeah. It would be my first one in a long time.
Wow, that's a sizable piece. I mean, what is it, like 4 feet, 5 feet?
Yeah. Big, man. Yeah. I've seen the surfboard. So that'll be a mission. I'll be using like probably mostly airbrush on that one because you can sort of span some more area.
Sure. Oh,
Yeah.
very cool. So when we first jumped in to the call before we started recording, I noticed your camera. You had changed the angle, and I was seeing down that way. I was curious. Would you mind stepping us through the facility a little bit, just to kind of see what a Melbourne-based art space is like, and even what's the name of the place? We can throw that in the comments below.
Yeah, this place is called Blender Studios. So they've been running for a long time now. It's ran by a guy named Adrian Doyle. He's an artist here. So it's artist run initiative, and it's like a big communal space. There's probably about 25 artists in of
Nice.
all different mediums. So you have dudes like this, right? Like this artwork is so different to mine. There's like Matt Finch. He's like an abstract expressionist. He uses like
Sure.
old school techniques. So he grinds down dirt and mud and
Wow.
combines it. Like he primes his canvas with rabbit skin glue, which is like smells like he's like murdering someone over here when I'm painting in my studio. But
I guess I'm. That's great.
but it's a big space. Like all the walls are pretty bombed up. I got
Nice.
everyone's work up here.
I see some of your stuff there.
Yeah, you got a little character dude in the middle there hanging
Yeah,
out.
cool.
Yeah, it's like more of the communal type of area where we all hang out, kick it, paint these walls, do not much. This
Brainstorm
goes,
sessions.
yeah, man, this goes back further, but it's a a lot of the people back in this area just have moved out because it's just, they can't pay rent right now with everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And then in here, this is like our big gallery space.
Oh,
So
wow. Nice. So
yeah,
you can have public events in there, and that's a nice little studio space. Wow. And then a
yeah,
big
it's
garage door that can open up.
yeah, right there. So that's where I roll that one up and cut all my skateboards out there.
Cool.
Keep the sawdust to a minimum, or at least I try to. And then you have the classic bin setting in a studio.
Yeah. Of course.
Beer, and more beer.
Liquid motivation.
Yeah, and then yeah, it goes around like so. Wait up. So like through here, this is the other side.
Right.
Oh my god, this guy here is nuts. I got to show you his work because this is Craig Cole. He's trying to like combine the worlds of fine art and graffiti to create, I guess, like a level of respect from the general public. So like these are all oil paintings. So
Ah,
like it looks like a window front,
yeah.
all the tags,
That's
all like,
rad.
it was crazy, man. This one right here. I don't know if you
Wow.
see if you see the green.
Yes, sir. That's
Yeah.
you.
So yeah. He said to me, came over to my studio and he was like, "Hey man, you want to just do a tag for me?" I had no idea what he was talking about. And then I come over and there's this painting that's like taken him however many days. He's like, "Yeah, just tag it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So I was like so sketchy, but he was like, "Just do it like you're doing it quick on the street because it's on a window front. It looks like sketchy, you know."
Yeah,
But
that's
he's been
cool.
working on more like ink paintings now. So this is a really famous spot in Melbourne where
Oh
there's a
yeah.
guy who does graffiti who writes pork. You can see it on that log
Yep.
cylinder. So that's a piece. Obviously, all the tags and everything are there in real life. But that pork piece is like, it's like when
Community.
it's just a piece that's been up there for ages. And pork is like just this. Pork writes in like FKB, which is a crew, and he just gets up like crazy.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. And as you can see, I mean, he painted that thing. The letters are like, you know,
Massive.
huge, man. It's just unbelievable. And then yeah, more spaces up here. Got Salvo in the corner. The front
Nice.
room, which is like computers. This is where all the admin sort of works.
Sure.
And yeah, loop back around to MySpace in here.
Very cool. Yeah, that's an awesome space. I'll make sure to put all the information for it in the section below. Out of curiosity, so the you got me thinking with the pork piece. With graffiti, is writing on trains, is that kind of like the holy grail, if that makes sense to you, for graffiti artists in Australia? Because in the States, it really seems like it's the holy grail for graffiti artists to get a train and to do a whole train car.
Yeah, yeah. Like trains are always huge. Like it doesn't matter what type of graffiti you're into. Chances are you have a level of respect for train painters because it's the hardest. It's the hardest thing to do. Like the amount of thought that actually goes into this stuff is ridiculous. Because I mean, if you hand a spray can to the average person and say, "Jump that fence, paint that train," and there's people that work 24/7 on these yards. You know, they're not just left there, and people can do whatever they want. So you need a lot of people, especially in like with our train systems, is there's like two-way walkie-talkies. So
Uh,
you'll have someone hanging out up in the grass up here, and they'll just be watching over, and they will tell you, like, it's almost like a video game where, you know, they're like walking behind the train, and you have
yeah.
like, you know, you hear like the music start to raise a little bit.
It's like you're doing some
Yeah.
Splinter Cell
Yeah, exactly.
sneak around stuff. What's the consequences in Australia? If you
Uh,
get caught
it,
painting on a train.
Yeah, it depends how much they want to give you, like, and how much graffiti you've done in the past. In Australia, there's actually a database of different graffiti writers and street artists sometimes. So, like, for example, I was caught when I was younger, when I was around like 16, 15, and when they took me into the police station, I thought that I was just going to get like a slap on the wrist or something. but they opened up their computer system and there was like folder that was named Kasper, and there was however many, you know, and it's wild.
Wow.
Like when you get graffiti writers that they're out there and they've been getting away with it for like, I don't know, 10 years. They've just been lucky and smart about how they're doing it. And they have, I don't know, a tag takes 4 seconds. So what, 20,000 cases of vandalism behind them.
Yeah.
That's when shit starts to get real.
They get
And
locked up
also,
ever.
yeah, you can get locked up for graffiti, but
Wow.
usually it's like one of those things. If you get caught and they take you in and then you do it again and then you're back in the court and then you're out and then you're back in court, chances are they're going to be like, hey man, we've
Yeah.
had enough of this. You're doing some time. Yeah.
Wow.
And it also depends on like the situation. Like if you're in that train yard, you could get like, I don't know, vandalism, and then you can get maybe like trespassing, you know,
Sure.
like depends what they want to throw on top of it. And yeah, sometimes they'll make an example out of a graffiti writer and yeah, really throw them into the deep end.
Yeah, I know some writers over here, and it sounds like the train yards are not a place to play around, because if you get caught, there's you can get like a felony, which can really, really impact the rest of your life. And yeah, it's interesting, man. The lengths that people will go through for art to create, I guess, regardless which side of the fence you're on in terms of whether you believe it's, you know, good or bad. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I guess at least with me, I respect any type of like dedication towards like a craft or something. And I guess with graffiti, there's no more dedication, because if you get like, I also like it because of like the fundamental sort of concepts of it, which is, I guess within the general public, we're sort of trained to achieve a few things, which is either money, fame, or family, you know? And when you're a graffiti writer, it goes the polar opposite to every single one of those. You're always broke, obviously. You're like
yeah.
a grafted.
Spending it on paint.
Yeah, you're not around your family because you're out at night painting. You know, I've had relationships go to crap through it, and just like to have someone dedicate themselves to creating something, just for the sake of creating something, because it has nothing really to do with people knowing who you are. Like Pork, for example, up everywhere, insanely huge, like ridiculous. You know, he's like,
Kind of like obey, right? It's
yeah,
just that
yeah,
one word. Yeah.
yeah, just a big, huge figure, up everywhere. The amount of hours and years and paint and time he's put into it, and I have no idea who he is. You know, so
Yeah.
like I see in that way, like just with graffiti, it's a bunch of, you know, people run around like little ninjas at night, not getting caught, making art, jumping, climbing. Like once you sort of, at least, especially once you start doing it yourself and you have like a go, even if like it's not your thing, I guarantee when you've like made it back to your door and you walk into your home, you're probably like, holy shit, that was crazy, you know?
I was fortunate enough to be invited along on some missions around the city that I'm in, some like late night operations. Right, I was doing some video and trying to get some interesting footage. All the places that we had gone were very, very derelict, rundown, abandoned buildings. It wasn't like going and tagging, you know, the mom and pa's shop on the corner street,
Yeah.
but some of the places that you, and again, it was, you could get in trouble. Had you been caught, but some of the places were super sketchy, because I mean, you're just like, you're climbing around in a place in the dark. It's multiple levels. There's like, it's an old building that's going to be demolished eventually, so there's like
Mhm.
holes in the floor that you can fall a couple of stories. There's like jagged metal sticking out, and sitting and climbing around, it was exciting. I mean, there's no way around it. It's just when you're in it, you know. And then at some point in time, one of the locations, uh multiple stories below, we heard unequivocally a step on glass that broke, and we all froze, and we're just standing
Yeah.
there waiting. And then he heard another one, and we're like, okay, so it's late. We're in kind of a grimy area. You don't know who's out there, and we're all just kind of looking at each other like, all right, now we need to figure out how to get out of here without like getting robbed, or worse, you know, get caught. So it was yeah, we definitely, you get back to where you set off on that adventure, and it's a round of beers and a hoorah. Like, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's wild. I've had a lot of situations like that. Yeah, some really bad ones. I guess I could probably tell you one.
Yeah, yeah, shoot.
Yeah, this is probably like the closest I've gotten to being like caught really bad. Because this is just unbelievable. I
No,
was
no information that's that's gonna incriminate. How about?
no. It's not. Well, I mean, I don't know. People, they already know who I am. I'm not doing anything these days, so
Yeah,
they've already caught me for this stuff. After this, but this was just like an interesting story.
sure.
I guess I won't give exact locations, but I was where I used to live back in the day, and there was a trackside spot. I used to paint along this type of area quite a lot, and one night went out painting, and I was like, something sounds weird. There's an added like buzz or something, because it was one of those big green boxes that sits on the side of the tracks, and I hear this like humming, and I'm like, it never used to sound like this. Like something's different, but it's super super slight. And then the next thing I know, I hear boo, like something's moving, and I'm like, well, I look up and there's been security cameras that have been installed into the spot. So
Yeah,
I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I probably have a few more minutes. Like it's almost done. It's so super, super close. And I quickly did like probably the shittest outline ever, and jumped the fence, jumped in my car, and just like, got out of there really quickly. And then the next thing I know, I cross a police car that has its lights on, shining in that direction like this. They
wow.
don't, and I'm like looking in the rear vision mirror. I'm like, don't turn around, don't turn around, don't turn around. I finally get past them, and then I think to myself, oh, where's your camera that you brought to take a shot of it?
No,
Yeah. And
no.
and on my camera is all the photos of like my family and my dogs
Yeah,
and graffiti and stuff. It's just like a rap sheet of everything they want.
right.
So I was like, I just thought to myself, like, do or die. Like you gotta go back. There's no choice. So
Yeah,
I drove back, and they were still there shining the lights on the spot. So I drove past them and pulled into a driveway like I was just going home or something. And
yeah,
then I just flicked my lights off and just sat there. It was like pitch black. Um, and then the next thing I know, they hit their lights and they start like speeding off like away.
yeah.
So yeah, drove back, jumped the fence, grabbed my camera. It was still there, put it in my car, drove home. And I was just like, my heart was just like, doosh, doosh, doosh. It was so scary, man.
Oh man, that adrenaline rush though. It's
Yeah, there's a lot of stories like that when you're out
yeah,
doing
around
painting.
here there's some of these bridges, man. You're driving a high traffic area, really dangerous bridges, and I have no idea how these people get out on those ledges, but
Yeah,
they're dangling underneath a bridge over traffic doing these huge pieces, and I've
yeah.
never understood how that's even possible, but it's I don't know, I can appreciate some art on my bridges.
Yeah, man. I guess it's just, grit, a lot of grit, a lot of, yeah, you just got to be crazy. A lot of these people are real crazy.
Yeah, well, to each their own, as long as you're not
That's
hurting
it.
people, I guess.
Yeah.
So I know we're kind of hitting that time. I'm a little curious though, kind of what's going on. What's the sentiment in Melbourne right now in terms of like this whole COVID thing and what's going on with like lockdowns, restrictions, school, work, like kind of the sphere of stuff that's happening right now. What's going on for you or for the people you
Yeah.
know?
The rules are pretty similar to the last time I was speaking to you, which was basically you're allowed to be out in public, like one of 3 or 4 reasons, which is exercise or essential work, things along those lines, as well as there's been more restrictions put in. So a maximum of 2 people are allowed out together at one point in time. If it's your family, the number can be a little bit larger. These rules are changing every single day, as you could probably imagine. But what's odd, I don't know whether this is similar in America or other places, but a lot of people are still out there working and doing their thing. Like
Yeah,
construction wise, like it is busy as there's construction going on everywhere, man. And
yeah,
I mean, all these big beer gutted, dirty blokes, like men, like they don't give a crap if they're, oh mate, if they touch each other. They're not doing elbows or
no,
anything.
no,
It's like,
Yeah, it's dudes that are used to getting their hands dirty and,
Yeah.
putting in work.
Yeah. So yeah, but the restrictions are sort of being alleviated a little bit. Queensland right now is starting to, I think in about a week, they're going to be taking down some of the restrictions and opening things up a bit more. That's because our numbers here have sort of leveled out quite a bit. So I guess Queensland is going to be a bit of a test run on how that goes and
Sure.
and and how the numbers react to it. But in Melbourne at the moment, same rules. Only essential businesses are open. Even that's weird though. Like cafes and bars and stuff, cafes and restaurants, you can get takeaway.
Sure.
Is that the same in America at the moment?
Yeah, actually, in our state, actually, so all the states are a little bit different. We have the federal government that's trying to create mandates, and then there's the states, individual states that their governors and their government is able to kind of do a location specific. So there's some states that are loosening up restrictions right now, like Georgia. I think Texas is about to or just did. And then there's other places like Minnesota where our governor just spoke today and extended the lockdown for another 2 weeks. So it's, which is really weird because our lockdown or our curve here, if you're looking at it, it's pretty flat at this point. It's just like there's not a whole lot going on. So it's getting interesting in terms of how people are perceiving what's going on. It's getting a lot more, you can kind of sense a little more tension. People are wanting to get back to work. And when there's not numbers that are supporting, a scary pandemic, there's a lot of questioning that's happening. What's it like for the people that do you feel like people are saying like, it's time to get back to work, or are they saying, yeah, let's just see what happens, or kind of a mix?
I think, yeah, it's a mix. It's definitely a mix. I think like at least a lot of my creative friends and stuff, they're not too concerned about how things are going right now because I mean, it's the government's really great with how they're funding. So there's like a job seeker allowance, which is if you don't have a job at all and you're out of work, you can get that, which is enough to pay your rent, and there's also like a job keeper, which is if you work for a company, you can get that. And it's like a sort of like financially hold you up. So I guess I surround myself with a lot of creative people. And if those creative people are on some form of payment just to keep their head above water, then this could actually be a pretty sweet time. Like it's weird to say, but
You're
I'm
talking about your
having,
skateboards, right? Like how it was a
yeah,
perfect time to just go down that tunnel or that path.
yeah, man. Like for so long, like I've been working at an art shop. I work there once every 2 weeks, so hardly ever. And then I teach street art tours and I teach workshops, right? And all these things have been alleviated. So I've never lived in Melbourne and just simply tried to live off my art, like completely freelance. And that's the only option right now. And quite often, like I'm scared to make that plunge, like I'm not just going to say, oh, I don't want to do that workshop. I don't want to work that shift. I don't want to do that tour just for the simple fact of, oh, well, I'm just going to try to hustle for the next month and see what happens. It's especially
Right.
when the workshops and stuff are fun, but this has been a really good experiment for me to see how I'd actually do carving away at this full time, just art,
Yeah.
So for me, like I live a short walk away from my studio. I come in, and also I guess this is weird, but I've always had like a pretty crazy work ethic, and sometimes I feel strange if everybody else is working and the world's rotating and everyone's out doing their thing, hustling. And if I'm in my studio and I don't have a commission and I don't know what to paint and I'm like, I don't know what to work on next, like I can get pretty bummed out with myself. Like,
You're
oh
your
man,
biggest critic.
yeah. And just like, are you doing the right thing? Like, nobody wants a painting right now. And, what's this going to be in 3 years? Like all these thoughts, but now that all this is going on, it's almost like I feel like I'm on just like free time or something. Cause the world's stopped. So as I'm here, if I don't have a specific project, I'm like, that's all right. Like, other people aren't just going on their day to day, but I guess that's just, yeah, I've always had like a really strong work ethic, and sometimes when I
Yeah.
see the world just continuing and I'm not doing enough, I'm like, you should be doing more. You should be doing more. So just
Do,
alleviated a bit of stress.
do you feel like it's allowed you to maybe take risks or do things that you wouldn't have done otherwise by alleviating this certain degree of stress that was there otherwise? Or
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've been filming a podcast, and I've been filming some doing like workshops, like online workshop things. But
nice.
just filming them and just chucking them in like a section, just haven't publicized them online or anything. But like things like that, I just usually probably wouldn't have the time to do. And it's also, I mean, it's not risky, but it's weird for me because I've never like sat down like with this interviewing with you and stuff. Like that's not my day to day. I quite
Right.
often, if anyone sees anything of me and who I am and my thoughts and along those lines, it's usually just uh, it's a post and it's the side of my face doing a painting with a very vague explanation.
Sure.
So the idea of speaking to people in an intimate way about who I really am rather than having the art speak for itself is a scary thing for me. But with all this time on my hands, yeah, I've been able to throw myself out there a little bit more, which has been rad.
So you mentioned the podcast. We had talked about this a little bit previously. What's do you have like a timeline, or do you have, I mean, have you come up with a name for it, a place where are you going to create a site for it? Are you going to upload it to like SoundCloud, or what's your plans with it?
Yeah, I don't know about platforms all too much. I do know 100% it would be on YouTube because it has a visual element to it. I've created the logo, I've created the name. I've done a test run interview with like one of my pals. I've also done a solo one, and I guess the whole gimmick of it is it's called Paint Daily. So Paint Daily Podcast with Kasper.
Nice.
And the whole concept is I sit down with local artists and we draw and just shoot the breeze. So like the visual element is, for example, the last one, I have an iPad, my friend had an iPad. We put on Procreate to do some drawing, and we just like live screen recorded. So
Sure.
we sat down in this big, beautiful studio opposing each other and just spoke about like Melbourne, street art, where they came from, how they got into graffiti, run-ins with the cops, all that type of fun stuff. And
Yeah.
along the way, you could see in each one of our corners a live view of just what we're sketching. So I think the big reason why I want to do this, one is so I can personally have a voice and just have like a little baby project I can work on as well as just the
Yeah.
paintings. And also, I just feel like, especially within Melbourne, like street artists don't really have that much of a voice when it comes to connecting people with people, like verbally. It's very elusive. But what's odd is where street art is these days is like, it's not much of an elusive thing anymore. Like um, street artists, at least within Melbourne, like everybody has an Instagram, everybody has a website. You can email them, you can talk to them. Like it seems like we're sort of holding on to this old concept of like this anonymous type figure, because Melbourne's really unique. Like it's much more acceptable here. So if you're going out painting like the mellow laneways that you could get caught maybe like 20% of the time or something, a lot of these people, they don't really care too much about showing their face online or side shots or something that like back in the day would be like, no way
Yeah.
at
Game
all.
over.
Yeah, and I just feel like a lot of us have so much to say and where the art is, and so many people try to speak for us, you know, like not too long ago there was this crew of dudes that went down to Hosier Lane with fire extinguishers filled with paint and just smashed like the whole thing. They covered the whole thing over all this work and everything. But
Wow.
they went over 3 of my pieces and they went over like 2 of my mates, 1 of my others. But I thought it was awesome. Like it was this, like in Hosier Lane these days, it's really commercial, and the heartbeat that used to be down there of all these like nitty and gritty artists and weirdos have changed to like tourists and you know,
Sure.
people taking selfies and not giving a shit about the art or the artist. Like
Right.
not at one point they don't look in the background really. It's just, oh, this red, black and white thing on the wall here can get me more likes on my Instagram post. And I guess for street artists, it's just like, it just takes away from the purity of your work, you know? So these kids came down with fire extinguishers and they did something that was like, it was worth talking about. It's this big rebellious thing. It was a huge display. And if there's anywhere in the city that you should be able to do this, it should be like the forever changing walls of Hosier Lane. And it was just a perfect situation for the news to jump onto it and to create, you know, it was a slow news day. So they were wearing balaclavas. They had a drone flying up and there were fire extinguishers. The color was going up everywhere. It's just insane, you know?
Yeah.
And they're luckily enough, I mean, sort of luckily enough for them anyway, there was a guy just recording it off his phone and that footage went viral. They picked it up on the news and then the mayor's saying like, these graffiti vandals are bombing our
Our graffiti.
Yeah. They're like, these graffiti artists are destroying our Melbourne street art culture. And it's like, if you look down the road at the Melbourne Art Gallery at the moment, there's exhibitions from Cause, Obey, and there's somebody else. Cause, Obey, Basquiat, and
no kidding.
And Keith Haring, right? And
Wow.
every single one of these guys have done exact same projects as that, have rebelliously painted walls, graffiti. Cause came from straight up letters. Like,
I mean, that's the culture though, right? Is you're hitting over, there's maybe a primo location where it's tough to get to, it's challenging, there's risk involved. And then people put something up there and everybody will be looking at it like, okay, like I'm gonna get that spot, or you know. And so to remove that element of like, oh no, there's something there, you can't put it there, it seems like it would defeat the entire purpose of street art.
Yeah, like, and like the Cause, like, and stuff down the road, big exhibition, and in that exhibition you can see like photographs from previous works that are so similar to what these kids done in the laneway, but in that art gallery it's worth $750,000, but in here it's worth, they're destroying what this is. And it's like, you don't understand what this is. If you put rules and regulations down in a space that's supposed to be like a legal laneway for anyone to do whatever they want, that's the point where if I'm a 15-year-old kid and I want to stay out of trouble and I want to do graffiti somewhere and get better, Hosier Lane's like a perfect location. And sometimes that means that shit art goes over good art, but like, it is what it is. It's a training ground. It's not a space where we only hold up the best of the best. Yeah. It's where you could be a homeless, you could be this, you could be that. It's a space for creativity. And that's what and I just find there's just so many situations like that for Melbourne street artists and for street artists alike, where we're like, you don't get it. You haven't lived it. You haven't been chased around. You haven't seen the contradicting laws and rules and what you talk about. And like, it's like if there was a presentation on the news in like the 90s about like punk music, you know, they'd be like, oh, these hooligans, mohawks and everything. And now it's played on the radio and you know, it's just, a lot of misunderstanding.
No, it's great. I'm glad that I'm glad we went down that route, because that's, you know, it's the culture, right? It's what it's all about. So you gotta respect the culture, otherwise, you know, you end up destroying it. So
yeah, man, gentrification at its finest. It's destroyed a lot of things. Yeah.
Well, because the platform I'm using is about to time out as far as the recording goes. I think we're hitting that time. Was there anything that you wanted to touch base on before we go, or that we didn't touch base on that you were hoping to?
No, I think it's about everything. All my artwork's at Kasper's Art on Instagram, and if you search Kasper's Art on anything, it'll come up with a Kaspers art. That's where you'll find everything. You find website and stuff.
There it is. So all the viewers and listeners, all the information will be on the about section below, as well as for the studio space. Kasper, thank you as always. I really appreciate getting to share some time and learn kind of what's going on for you out in Melbourne. And to the viewers and listeners, stick around. More of this stuff is going to be coming your way here shortly. So thanks again.
Thanks, Sid.